So the first match was against Misfortune, and it wasn't even an Aurora version or anything like that. It was some kind of hidden mechanic aggro cooking with the Bandle tree, and I even hit the Seal Vanguard Captain turn 1, so there wasn't really much to talk about in this game. I mean, my deck was just more refined, and I did feel a little bit bad because my opponent clearly, came to the tournament with a more of a for fun deck. I just happened to get the Seal Vanguard Captain into 4 points into Draven and a Hidden Blade, and my Hidden Blade ended up killing his Warwick Flurry of Blades combo, so it was a little unfortunate, and the best of 3 ended in about 10 minutes, and that's why I'm just gonna go straight into the second best of 3, which unfortunately was against my Finnish friend again. If you watched my last tournament, I got matched into one of my Finnish friends, and now I once again got matched into one of my Finnish friends on round 2. He was playing the Sigil of the Storm battlefield, where when you conquer, you have to recycle a rune, which is a little bit annoying, but once again I did hit the Seal Vanguard Captain on turn 1, while I also won the dice roll, so I'm going first with the Seal Vanguard Captain on turn 1. He ends up playing just a Yordle, and that's obviously 2 points for me. And I do decide to go for the Sigil of the Storm because I'm against Ahri, and eventually I am gonna lose in the end game. So even though I'm gonna recycle runes here, I still have to prioritize points, and I decide to just hold both battlefields just because how bad Ahri is when attacking, and this way I make sure that I don't have to conquer Sigil of the Storm multiple times. If I hold Sigil of the Storm, I don't need to recycle runes, but if I keep conquering it back, I need to keep recycling those runes, so it's very important you just keep holding it if possible. I play down my hook, which finds another Vanguard Captain, and I pull most of my units back because my enemy is at 7 runes, and he could be looking to play a non-accelerated Watcher, for example, and this way I just make sure that I'm threatening to hold Sigil of the Storm again, while I'm also playing around Watcher, and my opponent goes for the Sprite Mother, which is actually very good for me, because Sprite Mother recycles a card, and the Ahri decides to conquer Sigil of the Storm, and they have recycled 2 runes in their turn, so I know at this point that I'm gonna win this game. I know my friend's deck, obviously, and it's a very late game Time Warp Watcher kind of deck. So when he has to recycle so many runes in the early game, I just know I'm having the upper hand, especially having Seal and Baited Hook on board with drawing another Baited Hook. Usually drawing 2 Baited Hooks is bad, but when you have the Seal on board, it's actually very good. I attacked into the Yordle because I have the Cleave, and now if Ahri goes for example, Enguard, then I can punish him with the Cleave, but he had nothing, and I get the Sigil of the Storm again, and then I attack into the Ravenbloom, and now he played the Enguard, so I mean, that was very patient. He was being very patient with the Enguard, and finally decided to play it, but it's kind of too little too late. Now I can use Hook on my Vanguard Captain. I found a Spectral Matron, and then I can place down my second Hook Vanguard Captain, and find another Spectral Matron. So this deck was just, a insane snowball game. My starting hand was just like the Dream hand. Seal, Vanguard Captain and Hook. I mean, what more can you ask for? And when you get ahead of Ahri, it's gonna be very awkward for them, because they have to attack into you and they're not getting any value out of their legend ability. So that's why I left some recruits on the Trifarian War Camp, just to make conquering as the Ahri very awkward. They have to use either a spell or kill off all of their units, and they decided to kill off their Sprite Mother and stupefy one of my units and conquer that way. And then, I mean, they just gave up. But this was kind of an unfortunate game in a sense where I high rolled so hard that there was literally like, there wasn't much to do basically. The deck kinda played itself. But side decking, I obviously took a Falling Star in. Then I took in 2 Shens, and I took out a 2-cost Poro and 2 Kaisas. And that's because I'm gonna be running Zone Warrants on my second game, and Kaisas are a little bit worse in the Zone Warrants. I'm gonna get many procs from the Zone Warrants, so I don't really need Kaisa, especially into Ahri, because they really can't stop me from conquering in the earlier stages. And once again, I'm hit with the Seal Vanguard Captain baited hook 2 games in a row, but they play a unit conquer the battlefield, and I find another seal, which isn't bad in this situation, just because of the Zone Warrants. I play Cleave before I attack, just to make sure that I don't attack, then try to play Cleave, and then it gets defied. I play Cleave in base, even if there is the Dreaming Tree. Dreaming Tree would give me 1 draw if I play Cleave on there, but the 1 draw doesn't matter. I just have to make sure that I can conquer the battlefield, and when I conquer the battlefield, I'm gonna hide Hidden Blade, play Baited Hook, and my hand is gonna be empty. And you already know what that means with Dreaming Tree. And the Cleave goes through. There's really nothing much the Ahri can do. They just play a Discipline to get the draw out of it, especially when the unit was on the Dreaming Tree, so they got 2 draw out of the Discipline. But now I conquered, I play down Hook, I hide Hidden Blade with my other seal, and now I get free draw from Zone. I mean, this starting hand was insane. Double seal would be usually very, very bad, but then I drew the Cleave, and now I could just instantly vomit out my hand, and I got a free Zone Warrants draw on turn 2. I mean, that's gotta be a record or something. And I even get to use my baited hook here with the 1 rune I have left to find another Vanguard Captain, but this once again was a very high rolling game, and if this game was on Arena's Greatest or Trifarian War Camp, I would be in an insanely bad position right now, but because it's the Zone, I can just snowball this game pretty hard. And now that my Hidden Blade is on the Dreaming Tree, even if I Hidden Blade one of my own units, I get 3 draw, because obviously Hidden Blading your own unit targets your own unit, and then you get 1 draw from Dreaming Tree and 2 draw from Hidden Blades. The Ahri just plays down units because, I mean, there's really nothing much he could do, like, explosively, and I don't think there has been, like, any value out of the Ahri Legend in these games, and that's just because I have been so aggressive that Ahri has had to always attack into me, and that's what you really want to do against Ahri and especially against Yi. You want to make it awkward for them, you want to make them attack into you, and you just don't want to give them that legend value, if possible of course. I play down my Spectral Matron to take another Vanguard Captain, then I hook a Vanguard Captain to get another Spectral Matron. So, I mean, I'm just high rolling this game like insane. Like, the first best of were such insane high rolls that, I mean, there was nothing my enemies could really do. But trust me, the high rolling does come to a stop at some point. That's how math works. But let's enjoy the high rolling while we can. So I have 6 tokens, and tokens are especially good in this matchup just because of how good they're against Watcher, because they cannot even get minus might, because, you know, token is already at 1 might. So 6 tokens can almost solo an accelerated Watcher. The Ahri decides to play a Tasty Feyfolk, but he doesn't play it accelerated. I just get to 6 points this turn, and I found a I found a 3rd Spectral Matron from my hook, and here I leave stuff on the battlefield just because of how good all of these units are in the Watcher, because all of these units are very small, so they can't really get debuffed much, and I want to also force Ahri to use their runes on their own turn rather than leaving their runes up and using them on my turn. So this forces Ahri to do something. He attacks with the Tasty Feyfolk. I try to Hidden Blade it, but he uses Defy, and he plays a Foxfire. And on top of that, he plays a Guard. But I'm not too worried, especially because I still have my Darius champion. He plays down the blue Ahri, and I calculated it here that there was literally no way he could stop my attack with 2 runes. Even if he had a smoke screen here, it wouldn't be enough. So I just jam down, Poro into accelerating Darius, and attack with everything, and there's literally nothing they could do. These 2 games were a little bit unrealistic because I was so aggressive that the Ahri could do nothing, and I even got the zone free draw on turn 2. Normally playing into Ahri is usually very annoying, but this time the games were so awkward for the Ahri that they could never actually get value out of their legend, and so I just ended up snowballing the game out of control. If I didn't have zone warrants here, I would have insta-lost. Like any other battlefield, I would have lost, but zone warrants really was the MVP once again. Like, man, I love zone warrants. And I went through the first matches pretty quickly because there was really nothing interesting and I just got insane starts in general. But boy, let me tell you, that high rolling streak came instantly to a stop against the boogeyman herself, Kaisa. And contrary to popular belief, I actually don't mind playing in the Kaisa because playing in the Kaisa really pushes your deck to its limits. You actually get to see how well your deck does to the more consistent legend Kaisa, and it's also just a very good learning experience to pilot against Kaisa. We just played a ton of units, but when I finally go to conquer the Triferian Warcamp, the Kaisa does play the Hextech Grey, which is so bad because I was looking to use Hook on that faithful manufacturer if it survived, but it didn't, so at least I did get my token to the battlefield, and now I had to play Hook into just a Vanguard Captain, just to make sure that, just because, you know, playing the Vanguard Captain is more foolproof than, for example, if I would have hooked the 2 Might token. They just play a Kaisa, which is actually a very slow turn for them, so I get to hold the battlefield, and then I play down Darius into a Noxus Hopeful, go and attack their Ravenbloom student, and they use a retreat. And I mean, the game is looking pretty good right now, but because of the retreat, I have to be very careful of Watcher here, and that's why I draw back my tokens. I should have kept my tokens in and drawn back those bigger units, because now he just slams down the Watcher and kills everything off. And I also have 3 baited hooks, so those units that just died would have been very important to, you know, use baited hooks on. So that was very unfortunate. I just play baited hook down, play units down, find a Spectral Matron, and I just develop my board. At least the Kaisa is now at 9 runes, which means they cannot play Time Warp yet. But the biggest problem right now is that I have to go on the defensive, and I just lose to so many things. I just lose to Watcher, and I just lose to Time Warp, technically. And they also played a Falling Star there. But yeah, I'm gonna try to make my board as big as possible, finding a Draven, finding another Draven, and suddenly my board is pretty big. Obviously my board insta loses to the Watcher, and I also lose the Time Warp here because now they just conquer the right battlefield, play the Time Warp, and that's how they get the hold point from the right battlefield and end the game that way. So sometimes the games do feel pretty rough to play in the Kaisa, especially when they have that Watcher Time Warp, because you know you have to hold, but then when you finally go for the hold, they play the Watcher. Also, maybe the triple baited hook was a little unfortunate, but you know, I did high roll pretty well on the first best of 3s, so can't complain. So right now I'm 0-1 into the Kaisa, but I'll give you a little spoiler. I did make it to top cut going 5-0, so somehow I did turn this best of 3 around. From my side deck I took 2 Shens, a Vayne, and a Face Breaker, because obviously I'm gonna go for the arena's greatest now. And I take 2 Cleaves out and a Kaisa. And that's because Cleaves are... 1 Cleave is good, but if you draw 2 Cleaves, or if you just draw Cleave, Hidden Blade, etc, etc, you're just gonna get, you know... You're just gonna run out of value pretty quickly. And this is my old list. Right now, my updated list has only 1 Cleave, but this list was still running 2 Cleaves. And after this tournament, I did change up my deck because I saw myself always siding out the Cleaves. I'm going first, obviously, with Arena's Greatest and Zone Warrants. I get the 2-drop, which is obviously very important when you're going first, and I get to Conquer Zone, discarding my Kaisa. And Kaisa is actually like... Kaisa champion is pretty bad, especially with the Zone, so maybe I should have sided out both Kaisas. But here I can play Faithful into Trifarian Glory Seeker, which is actually a pretty good turn, because now I can look to play Baited Hook soon, and obviously the Glory Seeker is a 3-white unit, so it's very good with Baited Hook. The enemy goes for the Conger, plays down units, and I'm just happy with the enemy's kinda slower turn. No annoying spells like Falling Star here. Falling Star would have been devastating. I go to threaten the Yordle here with my Trifarian Glory Seeker, because I want to see what the Kaisa's hand is, and either they would Hextech my Trifarian or Stupefy my Trifarian, which I don't really mind either of them, because I can always, you know, maybe even Hidden Blade the Glory Seeker. Fortunately for me, no shenanigans, my Glory Seeker conquers here, and I get to play Baited Hook, I get to hook the Glory Seeker, I get a Vanguard's Captain from my hook, and because I have Shen here, I just pass. And I'm kind of trying to bait out something, because, you know, if you look at my board, something like a Cleave Darius here would be huge, but obviously Shen would catch the Kaisa off guard, and that's why I like Shen, because nobody plays around Shen. So that's why it's powerful, because nobody knows about it. They did go for the Icathian Rain, and now I can react with the Shen, but I have to do it in a very specific order. I have to wait for him to choose his last target, because Icathian Rain chooses 6 targets, so they have to choose 6 times. And if I play Shen instantly, they can then choose Shen. But reacting to the last Icathian Rain, like choosing something trigger, then I react with the Shen, because then it's too late for the Icathian Rain to target Shen anymore. So when he has targeted everything, I react with the Shen, and the Shen just saved my game instantly there. I have 1 token left from the Icathian Rain, which trades exactly with the Kaisa's board, 6 to 6. And without the Shen, the Kaisa would have gotten 2 points, Zone trigger, and I would just lose the game on the spot, honestly. But now, because Kaisa didn't get the 2 points, I can take a step back, I can play as much units as possible and rebuild my board. They only play an accelerated Kaisa, which is a very slow turn for them. And on top of that, they play a 2-cost unit, so that leaves them tapped out entirely, which is obviously very, very fun when you have Darius champion always in your champion zone. I decided to sacrifice my Matron here just because of the Draven in my hand. I don't want to play Darius, because with the Draven combined with the Hidden Blade, I should be in a position where I can just hold to win. So I kill Kaisa with the Matron, but I make sure not to use my hook this turn, and that's because I want to make sure that I have enough runes to accelerate my Darius next turn if I really have to, because if I used hook now, I wouldn't even have the option to accelerate Darius next turn. So even having the option to accelerate Darius is very important, and just, you know, keeping those options where you can react to stuff, etc, etc, is very important. So that's why you have to plan out your turns. They just play a non-accelerated Watcher, because, I mean, even if they accelerated the Watcher, it would just die instantly to the Draven or to the Hidden Blade. Then I just play down my Darius for 5 and use hook on one of my units, get a Vayne, and there's really nothing the Kaisa can do. And that game was the game where we saw why Shen is such a good card in the Kai'Sa. Shen is awkward, it's hard to play, especially because it's like a defending reaction and you're playing an aggro deck, but if you play Shen well, it's just such a strong card, and part of it is because nobody plays around it, so that's part of it why Shen is so powerful, because, you know, it's easy to get value out of it when nobody expects it. But yeah, if you still don't know why Shen is in the deck, I recommend you just play having Shens in your deck and just find those lines where you kind of get insane value out of it and punish your opponents. And it's also a pretty cheap card, only a 3 cost, 5 might unit, and especially if you have yellow seals in your deck, it just makes your yellow seals even better. So going to game 3, I took one 2 cost Poro out just because, you know, I'm most likely gonna be going second, so the 2 cost Poro isn't that important anymore. So Kai'Sa has a reverse row and I have the zone warrants and I'm going second, and I have the nuts hand for going second, especially in the Kai'Sa, because now with the Poro and Noxian Hopeful, there isn't much Kai'Sa can do. If they want to use a spell on my Poro, they have to pay for the deflect, and Noxian Hopeful is also out of the Falling Star or Hextech Ray range. So these 2 units are like the best units you could have on your turn 1 against Kai'Sa. They tap under everything, and that's just what you love to see when you're playing into Kai'Sa, because now I can conquer the zone for free, I can unbrick my hand. My hand was looking actually pretty rough, but now I can discard the baited hook away, find another Shen, and conquer the reverse row, play down my other baited hook, and still even use the baited hook. Now I decide to use my baited hook on my Poro, and that's because I want to find a Vanguard Captain, if possible. I don't have any good units in my trash that I would even bring with the Spectral Matron. Obviously I didn't hit the Vanguard Captain, I hit the Vayne, but that's part of the reason why there's no reason to hook a bigger unit, because all you really want to find here is the Vanguard Captain, so you can get at least one good unit in your trash, and that snowballs your game, so all of your future matrons will be way more powerful. But I hit the Vayne, and this game state is why I love reverse row, especially as I'm being an aggro deck, because now my Noxian Hopeful is just gonna get drawn back. The Kai'Sa attacks into my Hopeful, I draw it back, and I got a free point out of it, and it even lived. They just play a Kai'Sa, a very slow turn for them, and I just decide to attack with the Vayne, which does get smoke screened, but I don't mind it. Kai'Sa is now tapped out, and my Darius is gonna live, because, you know, there's nothing the Kai'Sa can even do about my Darius anymore. And you have to always think about what the enemy could be sitting on when they leave those runes up, and that's why you want to, you know, bait out those spells with your less impactful units. So now that they're tapped out, my Darius will live. If I attacked with the Darius first, it would have died to the smokescreen. Also, reverse row does make Darius such a good unit. Now no matter what the Kai'Sa does, he can only kill my Darius with spells. He cannot kill my Darius by attacking into it, and I have gotten insane value out of the reverse row in this game. They just conquer both battlefields, I draw back my Darius is still alive, which is a big plus, and they play a Thermo Beam into my baited hook. At this point I knew the game was over. Thermo Beam is such a slow card, and combine that with the fact that I already got value out of my hook. I have already used my hook once. Then they use the Thermo Beam, which is a 5 cost, 1 power, and it's good against Aurora, but it's just way too expensive into baited hook. And then they play a unit on top of it, so they're only sitting at 1 rune, and there isn't much you can do with 1 rune. So I just conquer with the Darius. My Darius even lives. I attack with the Matron. He pulls back his Noxious Hopeful, so my Matron lives. Then I have my second Darius, and I even drew a Hidden Blade. So now I don't even have to defend to win the game. For example, I can just go full on attacking mode and I don't even need to play around Watcher, and because the Kai'Sa used Thermo Beam last turn, they're 1 rune short from being able to play Time Warp here. So if the Kai'Sa was at 10 runes right now, I should have had to defend with everything I got, but because they tapped under the Time Warp possibility, this just leaves me with so many options. I don't need to commit to a battlefield, I don't need to play into the Kai'Sa's Watcher, and I don't need to play around the Time Warp anymore. So yeah, the Thermo Beam was a big setback for the Kai'Sa, and they just conceded the game. So we did turn the 0-1 best of 3 into a 2-1. It didn't come as easily this time. I did have to make some plays. The deck didn't play itself necessarily, and I'm pretty happy with the value I got out of Shen, because I mean Shen just solo won me that game too. And the more I play with Shen, the more I like Shen, so we're gonna have to see if one Shen even makes it to my main deck. We're gonna have to see. In match 4, I got matched into a Leona, and both of us are 3-0 right now, and the Leona just got featured in the Runes and Rift livestream, and they did pretty good. So even if they aren't playing a, top tier legend per se, both of us are 3-0, and when you get this far, you can't take your enemies lightly. So at this point I really tried to lock in, because this is where the kind of tough matches start. The Leona picked the battlefield that has ganking on it, and they have the Leona champion that enters ready when I get to 5 points, which is actually very good into anything aggro, because I get to 5 points very fast, and when the Leona champion is on board, any units that the Leona player stuns will get -8 might. So this also counters Dravens pretty badly. Thankfully, I had an amazing start with the Poro into Trifarian Glory Seeker. I didn't want to use Seal Vanguard Captain when I don't have to. I mean, Seal obviously recycles a rune, and I mean Poro Trifarian is 5 might in itself, so there's really no reason to recycle this rune with the Seal, while also I can always look to, for example, accelerate my Darius with a Seal kind of for free. They did leave 4 runes up, so I attack with the Trifarian Glory Seeker with the thought in mind that I'm actually not trying to look to conquer the battlefield, I'm just trying to see what the Leona hand has. Thankfully I have the cleave, so when they buff their unit, I can use the cleave, and then when they go to stun my Glory Seeker, I jam down the Darius, accelerate it, and the game state is just looking insanely good. And this is where the one-off cleave came in very clutch, but at the end of the day I could have also accelerated my Darius with the Seal. They play down a bunch of units, I get to 4 points, I just pull everything back, I develop my board, and having Kai'Sa champion here is amazing, because as you can see I'm kind of running out of cards, but with a board this big, I can almost 100% make sure that I can get the Conquer with the Kai'Sa next turn, so I'm not really worried about my hand right now. And obviously Draven is a very good card in this board state. They just play down more units, and I mean I'm feeling pretty confident at this point, just because I'm 100% sure that the Leona cannot, outvalue me with units alone. So now I can Conquer for free, I can play down Darius to the other battlefield, Conquer with the Vanguard Captain, because obviously I want to kill my Vanguard Captain with the hook, but then I decide to change my plans. I want to get the Draven down, because hooking the Vanguard Captain is a little bit risky. What if I don't hit Dravens or Spectral Matrons? So why take the risk if I don't need to, per se? So I decided to enhance the board at the war camp, just so it's gonna be very, very hard for the Leona to attack the war camp without using anything. And this way I make sure that the Leona cannot save all of his runes for when they're gonna defend. Stacking to the war camp forced the Leona into just putting everything on the ganking battlefield. And at this point, because I drew another Draven this late in the game, there's really nothing to lose here. I can just attack the ganking battlefield, see what the Leona has, They only had one card in hand, which was a discipline. They drew into nothing and they couldn't do anything. So there was really no reason for me to defend there. I had another Draven in hand, I had another Draven on board. So when the Leona's hand is so dry, even if they stop my attack with some miracle, at least their hand is gonna be empty on the next turn, and it's just gonna be impossible for them to attack, especially when I have the second Draven there. And obviously we go in the next game. I take in a second Falling Star, which you always do when you go against green, and I take double Shen. I take a Falling Star and double Shen. The Leona's units were pretty weak overall, so with the double Shen, if I do get a hold of a battlefield, it's gonna be very easy for me to make it very awkward for the Leona at least. You know, you don't want to hold, you don't want to commit everything to a battlefield, but you still want to make it awkward for them. So just force them to use something when they want to conquer that battlefield back. I'm once again going second. This time I had to play the Seal Vanguard Captain, but the Leona had a very slow start, so there wasn't much they could do. They play down a big unit. I get to conquer 2 free points. I actually decide to discard the Faithful Manufacturer because now that I have 2 yellow seals, I'm not gonna run out of runes anytime soon, even with the Falling Star. So with discarding the Manufacturer, now I can take back the Faithful with the Spectral Matron. If I played Spectral Matron without discarding my Manufacturer, I wouldn't have had anything in my trash to take out with the Matron. So this way I made sure that my Matron could be even played in general, and with the seal in hand, I made sure that I have something to accelerate my Darius at all times. That's why I didn't play the seal before, because I want to make sure that I can accelerate my Darius. The opponent played a Fiora, and I do want to get rid of the Fiora before it's too late, before she becomes a problem. So that's why I attack into their unit that's defending alone, because I want to proc their Zonias. If I go to Falling Star the Fiora, their Zonias will just save it anyways, and they just hidden bladed one of my units, which doesn't matter. Now I can jam down the Vayne, the enemy is tapped out, so I don't have to worry about any combat tricks anymore. I waste their Zonias. Now I can play down Falling Star, get rid of the Fiora before it's too late, before Fiora, you know, gets the deflect stuff. And even if I'm gonna have only 4 runes next turn, I can still accelerate my Darius with the seal. So that's why you don't just instantly play your seals if you see them. Keep the seals as a surprise, you know? The enemy looks at your board, sees you have only 4 runes, they don't play around Darius, you surprise them with the seal, and you know, easy peasy. They pass with all runes up, so their hand is very awkward. I am kind of thinking of a, you know, double Zenith Blade or something like that, or literally any other buff. And I was thinking about going in here with the Darius, with the Seal Darius, but it isn't worth it. Why go in when the enemy has 7 runes up, when I can just play down everything, conquer the left battlefield, use all of my runes to develop my board, while the enemy basically just did nothing, skipped their turn. So I'm not in a hurry here. I'm way ahead in points, I have a Draven in hand, and now I can just make the enemy waste all of their runes, while I get to use all of my runes. So if the enemy is threatening a ton on defense, then don't attack. They draw cards, they play down another Fiora, I get to 6 points already, and because there's Aspirations Climb, we actually have to get to 9. So I still have to get to 7 points to even, you know, threaten to win the game. So here's when the Darius finally comes out, and that's because I drew another Darius. The opponent does have 3 runes up, but I'm fairly certain that, you know, the only annoying thing they could have is the 2-cost stun, or then they have the Call to Glory, which is a +3 on their unit, or then the Zenith Blade. And they did use the Zenith Blade on the Fiora, which is honestly fine with me. The enemy recycled 2 runes, and they did play their key card. I mean, there's really nothing I can do about Zenith Blade except just force the opponent to use them. The Zenith Blade did give them a lot of value, but if you never deal with the Zenith Blade, then they're just gonna hold on it for the rest of the game, and when you finally have to deal with the Zenith Blade, it's too late. They did play a Call to Glory and win that battle, but it's fine because there's still a Zone Warrants, I still have Darius, and I still have Draven. I wouldn't have gone for that aggressive play if I didn't draw another Darius, but I did, so it's fine. Their Leona entered ready, they conquered, and they pulled back their Fiora. Because they pulled back their Fiora, I'm 100% sure they still have another Zenith Blade in hand, and because their hand was so clunky in the beginning, it's also another tell that they were sitting on 2 Zenith Blades at least. So when I conquer with the token only, they use their Zenith Blade, and I instantly know that I won the game here. They tapped under anything, I can now play Seal, ready my Darius, attack into Fiora, and if they have another Call to Glory, I still have my Hidden Blade in hand. Now that I'm threatening him with the Darius, they're forced to play the Call to Glory, then I Hidden Blade the Fiora, and I mean I'm just fine with paying the deflect cost here. Suddenly I'm ahead in runes, just because how expensive Zenith Blades are, for example, and they're just stuck on the left battlefield. I can just put everything down on the right battlefield and just hold it. I know for a fact that I don't need to play around anything that moves their Leona anymore, because I know the Zenith Blade is the only thing in their deck that can move Leona, you know, basically twice in a turn. I just play down a Draven, the Vanguard Captain, and I know that even if they have 2 stuns, it won't be enough to clear my battlefield. And because they don't have any extra move cards anymore in their deck, except 1 Zenith Blade, but it's very unlikely, I know that they can't accelerate anything with the Leona. And even if, for example, my Draven gets stunned, it's still a 3 might unit for now. They can't debuff any of my tokens because they're already at 1 might. And even if they stun everything in my battlefield, their Leona still isn't enough to clear my battlefield alone. So there's really no risk in holding this battlefield. They do have a double stun, but like I said, it wasn't enough and I win the game. So it's very important you know what to play around and what's in your opponent's deck. I knew they're running Zenith Blades, and the way you play around Zenith Blade is you just force your opponent to use them at some point, so they don't have them anymore. I don't have any way to block Zenith Blade except with my Hidden Blades, so there's really no other way to play around them than just to force them to use them. And of course, when they have used all of their key cards, there's also no point in playing around them anymore. Then I got matched into Tog playing Set in the Rifts and Runes livestream, and because I knew the game was getting live streamed, I for some reason thought that there's really no reason for me to record that game myself because it's being live streamed anyway. Now when I'm making this content, I realized it's very boring because in the live stream they didn't show the players' hands. So unfortunately, if you do want to see that game, you have to go to the Rift and Runes YouTube channel, watch it there, it just got posted, and I did make a big oopsie in one of the games, so sorry Tog. But don't worry, when I got to the top cut, to the top 8 players of the tournament, I got matched into Tog once more, and I guess you'll just have to see how that goes in the next video.